Okay, any comments?
I thought her theoretical approach was compelling.
Yep.
I like the way that she grounded her ideas in a sense of idea of freedom, and she just gave it a little bit more politics for me. The train sequence was absolutely astounding. But again, something about nature, images of nature that I find, they don't speak to me. But
we're getting a theme from you, Gary, there.
there's no art without artifice, right?
That's fine.
Mm.
Aristotle says, sorry, there's a lot of comments online here, so I want to jump in with one quickly. Aristotle says, really like the work, love the moving lights, looking at the train 360 water video. Very useful that you let us know of your sources of inspiration and train of thought as well. And he goes on, there's a bit more there as well, but I want to highlight that. So.
I was just thinking, it seems that water seems to be a common theme that goes throughout the work, and maybe Tony's think about what that represents to her and what the relevance of it is in the work, whether it's somehow, where water is involved, this is where inner world and outer worlds collide. Maybe it's something to do with where your other senses are dulled when you're submerged in water, that your inner world becomes more relevant.
Yeah.
I think that you could possibly explore the animating the work to breathing. There's a work called We All Live in an Ocean of Air, which was at Sarchi, which is VR and sensors, which you can use temperature, for example, as a proxy for breath. So I think that's something that, in terms of technicals, that she could research into.
I saw the Jeff Koons exhibition on the weekend,
Oh, yeah.
and he's got these things called gazing balls, and apparently it's all about breath, so the hollow on the inside and the reflective. And then when I saw that, I thought that just reminded me of the same themes that are going through Tayo's work about the breathing, like the in, the out, like through the water scene. So I thought that was a good reference. And there's another artist called Mariko Mori, where the moon scene, so she doesn't do digital work, but what she does is she makes these like amazing installations that she puts back into nature, so they look really odd, out of place, kind of a bit like her moon. So it's kind of a bit of a left field reference, but I think she could find that work quite interesting. Like she puts them on top of waterfalls and just like on islands and things like that. So
Ash says, your scuba diving experience can be a very powerful reference in response to your question about inner space. I don't know if you've ever controlled your dream and have a clear feeling where you were falling asleep. I can tell it's similar with sinking into the ocean, so do dig deep into your subconscious. And recommends Trisha Barger and Jan Schwankmeyer as artists to investigate.
I really like the train wake video because she said every light is a single planet. It's quite romantic for me, and but I don't understand the question, the first question, because I think the outer environment always influences our inner environment. Just like me, the time of I go to bed depends on perhaps the Instagram or something. Yes, and I think the point is, can our inner space feel the outer environment? But if we can't feel the outer environment, perhaps it's called autism, right? So I still can't understand that question mean. Yes.
I think the answer is definitely yes, isn't it?
Yeah, the answer is yes.
The temperature influences your mood and the way you feel.
Yeah.
There's so many different environments, like light, things like that.
Yeah.
All of those.
I don't think she said that. I think she asked the question, how is the environment influencing
She asked
your
if it
inner...
influences, if the outer environment influences the inner space, and the answer is yes, it has to be.
I think what's interesting is that the inner space also influences what you perceive in your outer space. So if you notice, like, if you're in a bad mood, you notice lots of grumpy faces. Everyone's in a good mood. There's lots of smiles. Like you curate your perception of the world based on how you're already feeling.
Well, also your brain plays a trick on you because it synchronises up all your senses, but actually they come in completely different times. So if you've ever had the experience of dreaming, and then the dream reaches a moment of critical climax right as the alarm clock goes off, that's because what your brain's done is go, oh God, I've got to end this dream before the alarm clock goes off, and it actually reconstructs a narrative for you.
Michelle says outer environment definitely influences our inner
Which means
space. Yeah, this is something we can affect control over, although sometimes the control is less and the influence of the outer becomes more. And so that's just related to that, but Matt also makes really interesting points about watching Breathe and your moon animation make me think of weight and gravity, submergence, the potential weight of freedom. The moon is being pulled under rather than falling. Interpretations of pressure, physicality might be interesting to consider in relation to what it means to be free.
I find the digital aesthetic comment quite interesting because of how it plays with the inner self and the theoretical side. It's kind of it's not a bad contradiction, it's kind of a good contradiction. Because if you're representing the inner self using kind of digital work, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of theory there that could be developed.
I actually think that a lot of that theory is basically just a sort of modern reading of abstract sculpture and abstract painting in general. I think the two can be easily transposed into the world of 3D modelling. Kind of Joan Miro and Henry Moore, even, that same idea of form and volume.
Just on that, and again, it's a long comment from Alexis. A lot of the online comments are really long, so I'm just picking out highlights here. But Tyler, you'll be able to read all these later. Alexis says your interest in and working with materials is clearly an essential aspect of your work. It anchors you in the reality of materiality, grounding you in physical experience, which is hard to obtain through the digital world. After all, the animal part of us is adapted to need the input from all the senses in a real world.
One thing I thought was interesting about the whole thing was the use of sound. It wasn't discussed a lot, but say in the train journey where it's very abstracted, you've got this kind of abstract colours, different shapes going past, but then the sound is very literal in comparison, and it kind of that juxtaposition kind of created a nice kind of sense of, if not inner and outer, then definitely two kind of different poles. And I think to talk about doing virtual reality and stuff like that, I think it'd be interesting to kind of work with three-dimensional sounds. We're talking about how external factors contribute to how we're feeling inwardly. That's kind of quite a nice, kind of not too literal, abstract way of creating this external environment through the sound and seeing how people respond to that.
Yeah, and she probably needs to experiment with taking things that are completely not from the same recording and putting them together. Because at the moment she's getting the sound of the water, the breathing, the scuba diving with the video of the scuba diving, the sound of the train with the trains. Take the sound of the breathing and put it with the trains. Just do that experiment, see what results.
And actually, in
vice versa.
Aristotle doesn't say that. He talks about the outer environment can definitely influence our inner space, which I think we've all talked about, and vice versa. Our inner struggles can affect how we perceive our environment as well. And it's that, isn't it? It's the contrasting of those two, deliberately breaking those two.
Break the connection between them, so that you basically are putting the viewer in a position where they have to then make their own connection.
The brain actually tries to make connections when it hears
Of
sound
course.
and visions at the same time.
Fusion.
And that's why sound effects works, because the brain just goes, oh yeah, that's a door closing.
If you get any piece of film and you put any piece of music with it, your brain will find the bits where it synchronises, and you will think for 90% of the time that was a deliberate edit. In fact, I've got a friend who did his final year film composition project like that. She just completely ripped 3 tracks of 3 CDs and just sequenced them. Said, there you go, job done. And it worked. It was
But
brilliant.
you also notice where it's not synchronised, because there's a sort of a tension or an uncomfortableness, it doesn't sort of flow the way that you expected with all completely perfectly polished music.
Yeah.
And one final comment from Pav, which just picks up a little bit on that. He said, I felt the project would benefit from a greater dialogue between contradictory boundaries of freedom and imprisonment, as both can be regarded as utopia. So that idea of the contradictory, but conceptually as well as practically, that's been picked up on sound. Okay, great. Some good stuff there. A lot for you to think on, Tayo.
That relates back to
Afterwards, there's a lot of comments here.
Yeah.
And I've not picked. I'll copy and paste all these comments so I'll just get them. Great.
Who's next?
So.